noticed it joined the other one finally, and then they were back up the hill, and I wound up falling asleep to the point where I didn't wake up again till morning. But we got some great tracks, and it was a really cool experience.
You probably will tell us basically how long or how big these tracks were, and what kind of definition did you get?
Well, it rained on them, but we still got individual toes. We got several of the 3/4 of a foot. You could see where what they call the mid-tarsal break looked like it was happening. Also wound up getting 2 off of the backside of the quarry rim where they were originally. So we were able to see the separate toes, so they were splayed out a little bit. You know, human toes are stuck in shoes all the time. So when, so they're all clumped together and kind of misshapen, and it's not natural. So when you don't wear shoes, your toes kind of splay out anyway. And you use it much more for gripping and things like that. So you could definitely see that where it went to dig in to get up on this rock and peek over the hill at us. So size-wise, if I remember correctly, one of them was 10.5 inches long, and the other one, which was the smaller one, was about the same size as my foot. And I wear a size 9, so I don't remember the exact size, but I took my shoe off and put my foot next to it, and it was about the same size.
Yeah. So this is like, a size or larger, but without a shoe print on it, just the foot.
Correct. Yeah, and like I said, these were young. They were young ones, and we got no tracks from the other one. Everywhere where he was that we saw, it was rocks. So larger rocks that they blast and put on the roads, and so in the quarry there, we didn't find anywhere where he stepped in dirt. I call him a he. I'm not sure if it was. I call him Pops because he was hanging out. I feel that he was hanging out, observing, watching over the 2 younger ones that were messing with us. So, which again, they didn't do anything bad. They were just hanging out, checking us out.
Yeah, and of course the big one. How tall do you suppose that thing would have been? Do you have any idea?
That one also was somewhere between 7 and 8 foot. The guy that was with me was a 7-foot guy, and I would say that it was pretty close to the same height as him. So.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah, it was a mature adult. I wouldn't say, from the sense I got from looking at it, if I was talking on human years, I would say mid-30s or something like that. But I don't know how years are to them. But just going off comparison for a human, I'd say mid to late 30s, I guess, mid-30s.
Yeah.
So it was an older one, but still not not a senior or anything like that. I didn't get that sense at all either that we were in danger. It didn't seem like that at all. They were just being curious and mischievous in a sort of way, coming into camp and messing around, but never felt that we were in danger at all. We were just happy to have the experience.
Yeah. Well,
and then we played back the audio.
We're going to get into
back the audio.
Are you still there? Hang on a second.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We're going to get into some of your habituation projects that you've got going, but I'm just wondering what you think about the possibility that this was almost like an adult Squatch kind of babysitting the younger guys and wanting them to get some kind of an experience hanging around human beings, maybe.
Yeah, I kind of got the same sense. It didn't. The older one didn't call them off. It allowed them to be there, and it allowed us to interact. So, I'm not sure. You can only speculate, but that was definitely the feeling that I got, was that the older one was just supervising and making sure that the younger ones were okay, and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Again, I wish we would have had more interaction with the older one, but we just had very little.
Well, and that brings up the question also, Mike. Do you carry firearms or sidearms when you're out there in the wilderness, and did you have any at that time?
I had a pistol in my truck. I don't fear them, so I fear humans, not animals. So when I do carry, and for the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, I carry, in some of the areas I go, I carry a 45. Right? But I also, I know this may sound weird to some of your listeners, but I also let them know that the firearm I am carrying is not for them. It's for other humans if I need it.
Ah, interesting. And the way you do that is some kind of psychic contact, or how do you? Is it a?
No, I just say it. I just say it aloud. Just walk up to the edge of the forest and say it, and say it several times when I'm out. If I'm hiking through the brush, looking around, I will say that periodically. Now, also, I want to tell you that my first year that I really got heavy into the communities of the Bigfoot world, I started to do what the others were doing, and that was setting camera traps. I got myself a thermal camera. I have all the audio recorders, and you do the game cam thing, and the camcorders out there and hidden, and all that stuff. I did that my first year once I got involved in the communities, so the Bigfoot community. So. But then I found myself pretty much married to the equipment and not enjoying being out in the woods. Everybody else in camp, that didn't put out equipment at that time, they would be visiting and laughing and making s'mores and things like that, and just there having a good time. Then when I would go back at a camp after setting up equipment, I would wonder to myself, be sitting there thinking, did I turn on the last one? Did I hit record? Is that a good angle for that one? Geez, I hope I put fresh batteries in the audio recorder, that kind of thing. So I didn't have a whole lot. I didn't catch anything on any of it, on any of the equipment. So from this, and that was in 2012, I started with all that. So by 2013, I took and got rid of pretty much everything out of that except for the audio recorder. And every time I would set the audio recorder out, I would say out loudly, very loudly, that I'm putting out an audio recorder. If you don't want to be heard on here, then don't make a noise. So, because I found that trying to fool them, we were getting activity, and we were getting sightings and stuff, but we weren't getting anything around the equipment. So, my thing is people want to put out camera traps and everything. To me, my opinion, and this is just mine, that those are some of the best Bigfoot repellents you could use. So, if there ever was a money shot, it would have been the Patterson-Gimlin one, and that hasn't made anybody rich. It's cost them a lot of grief, and Bob's been through a lot over that. And there's just really not a money shot. So I decided to get rid of the equipment and just be out there for life experiences. And since I changed that way of thinking, that's when all the really good stuff started happening.
Wow.
And then, like I said, and there was witnesses for every one of my sightings, which means there's several other people out there that can say that they've personally absolutely seen Bigfoot for themselves. So.
Yes. And can you now get into some of the details of your habitat investigations and how you go about doing that without cameras? Is there protocols that you follow out there experiencing the Sasquatch on your own?
Okay, well, I go to areas that I've scouted. And sometimes they're cold areas, places I've never been before, just based on how the habitat looks. Like, is this an area that they have an escapement? Is this an area where they can have a place to sleep? Is this a place where they will have a food source? Is this a place where they have water? So I'll hit Google Earth quite often and start looking that way. And again, I've really changed and done most of my stuff around Mount Adams. However, I've got one to tell you about in the Blues. That was the Blue Mountains of Washington. That was significant. So I won't get into the exact spot where it happened, but I'll tell you it was near Paul Freeman's area, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So once I decide on an area, which pretty much all my areas that I go to are around Mount Adams now. It's just been a gold mine for this. So for Bigfoot and UFO stuff.
Isn't that interesting that Mount Adams is such a squatchy place as well as being the home of E-City Ranch and James Gilliland's place that you can go down there and see so many UFOs as well. That seems to be a real hot spot for both activity.
Right, and I have no experience with James and his ranch. I haven't had a need to go do that because of the areas. I will be going down there with you later next month, but that'll be the first for me. I haven't had a need to do that because of the areas I go to. I see UFOs there, and I can share that with you as well. And then I have the Bigfoot stuff as well as. Well, another interesting side of this is for the last 5 to 6 years, people out Bigfooting have been seeing some anomalous lights, like headlamps with no body connected to them, which they can see there's nobody walking with the light. What people are calling, and I know this is a stretch for some, but because nobody else knows what to call them, but something that they would refer to as fairy lights, which just because, people when you're growing up, that you think of Tinkerbell and the lights and stuff, so that's what people use so that others can identify with that, and so they can get their head around what they're talking about. But these are anomalous lights in the Mount Adams area as well, both like micro LED size to like ping pong to golf ball size. So my first 15 to 20 years of stuff in the woods, really around the mountains, was around Rainier. And then I kind of went and started going between Rainier and Mount Adams in an area. And then Vince also mentioned an area called Cinnabar. I found what I thought to be walking, driving down the road. I was noticing all these piles of bear scat. This is up in the area above Cinnabar, the hill straight up out of Cinnabar, up by Bald Mountain. Growing up in Yelm, the Bald Hills were right behind us. So I spent a lot of time, and I was a logger for Weyerhaeuser at one point, so I spent a lot of time out in those Bald Mountains, or Bald Hills. So this Bald Mountain area is what I call my bear country, and a lot of bears up there. So I'm going down the road, and I'm noticing all these piles of bear scat. And then there is an extra large human-looking pile of scat, and more formed like humans do. And it was very interesting. And so I pulled over and looked at it, and I kind of broke it apart and looked inside, and it was a gray in color. It was not that old, but sort of gray in color, and I could see some crunched up bones. I could see twigs in there. Very different from bear. Even when bears do solid scat, this looked very different. So I stopped my hunting at that point and drove 28 miles down to the game check station to the biologist and said, I want you to come look at something. And she asked me what, and I said, I want you to come look at some scat. I have been a hunter for my whole life, and I know what bear scat looks like in all forms, and this is not bear scat, and it's too big to be cat scat, so I want you to come look at it. I left it where it's at, but I want you to come look. And she said, I've seen a lot of scat in my time, and I'm not driving that far to look at scat. And so I just wasted my whole morning hunt on trying to get somebody to come investigate this. So I got really frustrated with that. I mean, I understand where she's coming from. She's got a job to do, and she didn't want to waste her time going to look at poop. But I got really frustrated with that. So I started asking in the communities, hey, has anybody ever taken pictures of what they think might be Bigfoot droppings. And I started getting some pictures, and those pictures matched exactly what I saw